There is a truth known only by those who walk barefoot through storms and meditate beneath falling leaves. The monks say, a woman who listens to the whispers between the days shall never be caught by surprise. This speech is not a teaching. It is a prophecy, a scroll unsealed not by hands, but by timing. You have not found this message by accident. The month is in motion. And you, yes, you stand at the edge of a moment the universe has hidden in plain sight. Stay until the very end, for the winds are shifting between the 9th and the 12th. Shadows will pass before your eyes. Only those prepared will recognize what is being offered and what must be left behind. This is the prophecy of the 7 rules. There is a rhythm to the universe that few hear, not because it is hidden, because it speaks in the quietest moments between one breath and the next, between one day and the one after. The wise have always known it. Life is not a straight line but a spiral of seasons and signs. In this turning of time, there are days that carry weight. Sacred days, days that are not merely part of the calendar, but part of a cosmic unfolding. When we speak of timing, we are not speaking of clocks or deadlines. We are speaking of alignment, of the soul arriving exactly where it must, not a moment too soon, not a moment too late. A smart woman feels this. She does not race the wind nor beg the river to rush. She watches. She waits. And when the moment comes, she acts with the certainty of one who knows. This is the first rule, to trust the timing of the days. The ancient ones watched the skies, the moon, the migration of birds, the way shadows lengthened before rain. They understood that timing was not a mental calculation but a spiritual posture. What appears delayed may be perfectly timed. What arrives suddenly may have been on its way for years. Between the 9th and 12th days of each month, the energy subtly begins to shift. It is as if a gate slowly creaks open somewhere in the heavens, unseen by eyes but felt in the bones. You may feel a tug, a flicker of recognition, a stirring. Perhaps a name comes to mind, a thought repeats, an encounter feels too perfect to be random. These are not accidents. These are markers left by the divine to signal. The corridor of the shift is opening. During these days, women often report feeling simultaneously excited and unsettled. It is the soul leaning towards something it cannot yet fully see, like a flower turning toward the sun long before the clouds have parted. There is an old parable from a mountain temple, known only by the monks who sweep its quiet courtyards. It tells of a woman who wished to meet her destiny. She climbed the mountain each day and asked the elder monk, "Master, when will I meet the man who carries the other half of my soul?" The monk simply smiled and handed her a wooden bowl. "Each morning," he said, "walk to the spring and fill this bowl with the first water that flows." She did so. Days passed, then weeks, then a full moon cycle. She grew weary. She felt foolish. Then, on the 11th morning, as she bent to fill the bowl, a man she had never seen stepped forward to help her. "I've come each day," he said, "but always too late." They stood there in silence, 2 bowls, 2 souls, and 1 moment perfectly timed. The parable teaches us what so many forget: the moment is not forged by desire, but by readiness and rhythm. Had she stopped on the 10th day, she would have missed him. Had he arrived on the 12th, he would have missed her. In daily life, we often complain of delays. We say, "Why hasn't it happened yet?" But perhaps the real question is, what is being prepared within me while I wait? You do not plant a seed and dig it up each day to check its growth. You water it. You trust the process. Consider the way a bird waits before taking flight. It does not flap its wings endlessly in anticipation. It stands still. It feels the air. It senses the current. And then, when the wind is just right, it leaps not into uncertainty, but into perfect timing. As the Persian mystic Hafiz once whispered through his poetry, The small man builds cages for everyone he knows, while the sage, who has to duck his head when the moon is low, keeps dropping keys all night long for the beautiful, rowdy prisoners. This is what divine timing is. A key dropped at the perfect hour to free the soul from its restlessness. So do not chase, do not push, observe the days. Between the 9th and 12th, listen deeply. What returns to you? What opens? What closes? What stirs in your dreams or repeats in your conversations? These are the fingerprints of faith. And when you feel it, that quiet pull, gentle knowing, you will not need to ask if it's time. You will simply know. Then we come to the second rule, to listen to the sound beneath silence. This is perhaps the most misunderstood teaching in the world of the modern mind. We have grown so used to noise, digital, emotional, mental, that silence now feels like absence. But to the awakened woman, silence is presence in its purest form. There is a stillness beneath the surface of things, like the deep layer of the ocean, untouched by storms. While the waves above roar and churn, deep water remains unchanged. So too must the soul learn to dwell beneath the noise, where truth does not shout, it hums. Intuition is not loud. It will not argue with your logic. It will not fight for attention. It waits, patiently, like a lantern in a cave, glowing only when you dare to enter the dark. Between the 13th and 14th days, the veil becomes thin, not in the way of ghosts or shadows, but in the way of knowing. You may suddenly understand what someone meant weeks ago. You may feel uneasy around someone you once admired. You may have dreams that seem to speak in symbols. This is your soul translating silence into insight. In the Shaolin tradition, there is a teaching known only to the night watch monks. They are trained to walk the monastery paths in total darkness, relying not on sight, but on breath, memory, and listening. One night, young monk tripped and fell. Embarrassed, he asked the elder, "How do you never stumble?" The elder replied, "I do, but I listen to the stones before my foot meets them." It is a riddle, yes, but a deep one. He was not referring to ears. He was referring to presence, to intuition so refined it becomes one with the path. This kind of listening is cultivated, not gifted. You must spend time alone, not in loneliness, but in sacred stillness. You must turn off the noise, not just around you, but within you. In the real world, this may look like pausing before you reply, not answering the call just because it rang, asking your body how it feels before committing, closing your eyes before opening your mouth. Watch nature. It whispers everything. The deer does not walk into the clearing unless it senses peace. The flower does not bloom if the light is too harsh. The owl does not hunt until the silence reveals movement. And what of you? Will you listen to your own silence? Will you trust the inner nudge that says something is off or this is the right door? A woman once sat by the ocean for 7 mornings before deciding to leave a city that had dulled her spirit. She didn't read a book. She didn't ask anyone's advice. She just listened. On the 7th morning, as the sun rose, she heard, not with her ears, but with her being, "Fa, it is time." And that was enough. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "Nature gave us 1 tongue and 2 ears, so we could hear twice as much as we speak." But what of the ears of the heart? What of the quiet, knowing that arrives before explanation? Intuition is not magic. It is ancient memory, a whisper from the part of you that has seen this path before, in another time, in another way. So between the 13th and 14th, do not seek advice. Seek stillness. Do not ask the world. Ask the wind. Ask your breath. Ask the space between your thoughts. You will hear something, a name, a warning, a blessing. And it may change everything, but only if you are still enough to hear it. Thus, the journey deepens. from trusting the rhythm of sacred days to learning the sacred art of listening beyond sound. For these two together are the beginning of mastery. In the silence between them lies your transformation. In the quiet chambers of the spirit, long before life's great shifts occur, a silent preparation is already unfolding. The path of those who are chosen, not by the world, by the heavens, is not lined with noise or applause. It is lined with discipline, solitude, and deep listening. To be chosen does not mean to be favored or spared. It means to be entrusted. It means your soul has been marked for something higher, and so it must be trained accordingly. This is the third truth. The ones who are truly chosen do not wait for signs to appear. They prepare for them long before they come. They do not stand idly at the gates of opportunity. They tend the garden of their mind, strengthen the walls of their heart, and clean the corners of their spirit. They prepare in darkness, so when the light comes, they do not blink. They rise. The world often misinterprets silence as stagnation, waiting as weakness, and discipline as detachment. But this is not so. Preparation is the secret dance of the soul with its destiny. It is the silent training of the archer before the tournament, the unseen rehearsals of the monk before the moment of teaching. There is a story often told in the halls of a monastery nestled among the cold cliffs of the East. A young disciple approached the master and said, "When will I be chosen to lead?" The master pointed to a stone wall and said, "Move it, one rock at a time." Confused, the disciple obeyed. Days passed, then weeks. One morning, after 31 days, the disciple returned to find the wall rebuilt exactly as it had been. Frustrated, he demanded, "Why make me do this?" The master replied gently, "You wish to lead others. I needed to see if you could carry your own silence first." The lesson was clear. The world often asks, "What are you doing?" But the soul asks, "Who are you becoming?" True leadership, true readiness, is born not in declarations but in devotion. In daily life, this can be seen in the woman who prepares herself in ways unseen. She reads sacred texts while others scroll endlessly. She walks in nature while others run from themselves. She cleans her space, prays with sincerity, reflects in solitude, not because a specific date has been set for her breakthrough, but because her soul already feels it approaching. She senses that when the moment arrives, it will not wait for her to get ready. It will only ask, "Are you ready now?" Just as the first snowfall does not warn the mountain, simply arrives, so too do divine moments arrive without warning to see who has prepared in silence. Between the 15th and 17th, energies of testing and temptation emerge. It is as though the spirit is approached by familiar voices, old habits, faces from the past, distractions that once held power. These are not random. They are sacred echoes sent to see if the lesson has taken root. They are not here to harm, but to confirm. Zeph, is your preparation complete? Or do you still cling to what once delayed you? The wise do not fear these tests. They bow to them. They smile gently, recognizing them not as setbacks, but as signs that the turning point is near. As the philosopher Plotinus once wrote, "Withdraw into yourself and look, and if you do not find yourself beautiful yet, act as does the creator of a statue that is to be made beautiful." He cuts away here, smooths there, makes this line lighter until a glorious visage is revealed. The chosen woman knows this. Her silence is not passive. It is sacred carving, a slow shaping of her inner life to reflect what is coming, not what has been. And when the door opens, when the divine finally calls her name, she does not stumble in. She walks with the grace of one who has already walked that path in her dreams, in her meditations, in her becoming. And from this readiness, she steps into the deeper pattern, the truth that nothing in this world moves without rhythm, that all of life, even chaos, dances to an ancient, repeating beat. This brings us to the fourth truth, that the cycles of the universe are not random. The moon rises and falls. The tides come and go. Seeds bloom, wither, and return. The wise have long observed, everything repeats until it is remembered, until it is honored, until it is transcended. Human life is no different. We find ourselves in relationships that echo old patterns. We feel the same emotion arise in new faces, different places. We say, why does this keep happening? Not realizing that the universe is not punishing, it is pointing, gently, repeatedly, until we awaken. Between the 18th and 20th, this cycle becomes visible. It is a mirror phase, not a punishment, but a revelation. What returns now returns for your liberation. If anger rises again, it is asking to be released without expression. If fear returns, it is asking to be walked through without running. If someone reappears, it is not necessarily a sign to welcome them, perhaps to finally say goodbye with peace in your voice. There is a parable whispered by forest monks to young seekers. A seeker once walked a circular path in the woods for years. Each season he would cry, "Why do I keep ending up here?" One day, a crow spoke from the tree above, "You walk in circles because your eyes are on the path. Look up." When he did, he saw the stars and realized that while his feet had repeated the same steps, his heart had changed. The story reminds us, repetition is not failure, it is refinement. Even the seasons repeat, but never identically. Each spring is different, though it always follows winter. So too are our lessons. They arrive familiar, but they come to meet the deeper self we have become. In daily life, this truth shows up in how we handle the familiar storms. Where once we reacted, now we pause. Where once we clung, now we release. Where once we feared the fall, now we understand its wisdom. This shift is the beginning of mastery. It is not that the cycle ends, but that we no longer resist it. We understand it, we work with it. We move through it with grace. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make of it." But more hidden in his writings is the line, "You must become the conductor of your inner symphony. Do not let the strings play out of tune with your soul." The smart woman does not rage against the pattern. She studies it, she honors it, and then, through wisdom and awareness, she chooses a different note, a different response. This is how transformation occurs. Not in a single, blinding moment, but in the quiet choice to no longer be ruled by the same thought, the same reaction, the same wound. And so, as we transition from the days of testing into the days of reflection, we begin to understand that life is not demanding perfection, it is inviting presence. The cycles are sacred because they bring us face to face with ourselves again and again until love replaces fear, clarity replaces confusion, and peace replaces control. And when that happens, we are no longer mere passengers in fate's boat. We become co-creators, not of time itself, but of how we walk through it. Each breath, each day, each return becomes not a burden, but a blessing. And the wise woman, the smart woman, the prepared woman walks gently through these cycles with open eyes, a still heart, and the quiet confidence that all is as it should be, not because it is easy, but because she is finally ready. When a blessing is near, does not always arrive with golden light and joyful celebration. More often, it comes wrapped in difficulty, hidden beneath emotion, cloaked in uncertainty, veiled by the shadows of our own resistance. This is the fifth truth. Every true blessing is preceded by a test, not because the heavens are cruel, but because they are precise. Just as a bridge must be tested before it carries travelers, too must the soul be examined before it holds more light. The deeper the blessing, quieter the test, and the test rarely announces itself. It comes as a sudden shift in emotion, a returning wound, or a fragile moment when the old self wishes to react as it always has. The blessing is not just what enters your life, it is who you must become in order to hold it. Test is the fire that burns away what cannot remain. Between the 21st and the shadow of the 22nd, the air grows thick with emotion. These are not signs of falling backward. They are sacred contractions before a new birth. One may feel overwhelmed, weepy, unsure, or suddenly withdrawn. Do not resist it. Do not shame yourself for it. Instead, look deeper. Ask, what is leaving me now that no longer belongs to the future I seek? There is a parable told in the stone chambers of a mountain shrine. A disciple once complained to his master, I feel torn apart. I prayed for peace, and now my heart is restless. I asked for clarity, and now I question everything. The master placed a bowl of muddy water before him. He stirred it with a twig and said, What do you see? The disciple replied, Nothing, only murkiness. The master waited. Minutes passed. Then the master said, No, look, the water had cleared. This, he said, is what your soul is doing. The stirring is the answer, not the obstacle. And so it is with each of us. We ask for wisdom, and our illusions are disturbed. We ask for strength, and we are met with trials. We ask for love, and we are shown where our hearts are still closed. The 21st is often misunderstood, called a difficult day, an unlucky moment, a heaviness. But in truth, it is a sacred fire, a day when the unseen realm tests the vessel. A day when, if you sit in stillness rather than reaction, you will feel the last threads of an old identity loosening. In nature, this is reflected in the moment a snake prepares to shed its skin. It becomes still, its eyes cloud, its body rubs gently against stone. It appears vulnerable, confused. But in truth, it is birthing itself anew. The discomfort is not a mistake. It is the invitation to grow. In daily life, this might appear as a sudden conversation that strikes a nerve, disappointment that reopens an old wound, or an emotional release that makes no sense on the surface. But underneath, the soul is stirring, making space for what is about to arrive. The philosopher Seneca once wrote, Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor strengthens the body. But more hidden within his writings is a deeper line. If no tree stands firm without wind, it is the gust that roots it in the earth. So when the winds rise, when your soul trembles beneath the surface, know this. Something sacred is near, and the test is not here to break you, it is here to prove you. Breathe, pause, feel. Let the fire burn away what no longer fits the woman you are becoming. And as the flames begin to fade, a new rhythm quietly emerges. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is subtle like the sound of footsteps in dew-covered grass. This brings us to the final truth. Within each month, there are portals of energy, sacred openings, not visible to the eye, but deeply felt by the attuned heart. Between the 22nd and the 25th, such a portal opens. It is a time when alignment is possible, when all that has been stirred, tested, and seen begins to settle into place, if you have walked with presence through the earlier phases. Trusted the timing, listened to the silence, prepared in secret, honored the cycle, passed the fire, then now the path clears. But if you are scattered, distracted, or still clinging to the old, this portal will seem invisible. It will pass like wind through your fingers. This is why the soul must be ready, because alignment does not wait, it invites. There is an ancient story from the East, whispered by monks during evening rituals. A seeker once asked the elder, "How will I know when the path has opened for me?" The elder handed him a cup of water, filled to the brim. "Walk across the stone path without spilling a drop," he said. The seeker laughed. Impossible? But he tried, and with each step, he watched the cup, careful, focused. When he returned, he realized he had not seen the path at all, only the cup. The elder smiled, and that is why you missed the signs. You are too focused on your fear of falling rather than where the path is leading. This final phase, the portal of alignment, requires a different kind of awareness. Not vigilance born of fear, but clarity born of presence. You must soften, not tighten. Observe, not overthink. Feel rather than force. In nature, it is the season when fruit ripens without effort, when the wind carries seeds without aim, yet plants them exactly where they will thrive. It is the phase when the universe does not need to speak, because your soul is already listening. In your daily life, this may look like synchronicity, an unexpected message, a dream that feels like instruction, a sudden peace in a situation that once brought chaos, a name, a number, a pattern that repeats. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Do not chase them. Simply acknowledge them. Smile gently. Bow to the unseen orchestration of it all. The philosopher Heraclitus once said, "The unseen harmony is stronger than the seen," and indeed, in these days, the harmony that moves beneath your life becomes more evident, but only to those who have tuned their inner ear. This is why smart women do not rush. They do not force doors open. They align themselves like a musician tuning her instrument before the concert begins. They know that the right note, played at the right time, opens more than sound. It opens destiny. So if in these days you feel a sense of calm after the storm, a lightness after the test, a knowing without explanation, do not question it. Simply move in harmony with it. Say yes where your body softens, back where your spirit tightens. Trust the rhythm. Trust the silence. Trust that the unseen hands of the universe are now shaping what your soul is ready to receive. And remember, a blessing does not arrive when you are desperate. It arrives when you are aligned. So, let your steps be soft. Let your heart be clear. Let your presence be whole. For the final pages of the month are not a conclusion. They are an invitation. And those who walk slowly, with wisdom and reverence, will pass through the portal with grace. Not because they forced their fate, but because they matched its frequency. Thus the circle closes, from the test to the alignment, from fire to stillness, from longing to arrival. And the woman who followed the rhythm, not perfectly, but honestly, finds herself not where she expected, but exactly where she was meant to be. Not just changed, but transformed. And now the scroll closes. Sacred window is still open, but not for long. The signs will fade for those who doubt, but will burn brightly for those who trust. You now know the 7 rules, but wisdom is not what you remember, it is what you live. So walk quietly, walk wisely, walk with knowing. Because smart women do not chase fate, they align with it.